Welcome to the future.
Welcome back to HIVEMIND Unlimited.
And welcome to another episode of our movie series, How Did It Age? Where we watch older movies and reevaluate them with modern context. This week's movie is Idiocracy. It is perhaps the most requested movie in this series.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense. How did it age? This is like one of those movies that's kind of what it was made for.
Yeah, I guess retrospect.
Are we closer or further from this dystopian future that Idiocracy presents us?
Yeah, we'll get into all that stuff.
For now, though, do you want to tell us about Mike Judge and all that stuff?
Yeah, this movie is directed by Mike Judge, beloved from Hank Hill and Beavis and Butthead and Office Space. It stars Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph, Terry Crews, Dax Shepard, Andrew Wilson, Anthony Campos, bunch of other people, and this movie lost a lot of money.
Yes, it did.
Partially due to a box office kind of withhold of a major release that I'll get into later, but overall, box office wise, it raked in just shy of $500,000 against a $2.4 million budget, but later, when it got out on DVD, it made about $9 million.
Office Space, which is Mike Judge's movie from 1999, was a cult classic,
Yes.
and it raked in a lot of DVD sales as well.
Yeah.
And they kind of counted on that.
Yes.
But at the same time, there's a reason that this movie didn't go out to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Just for context of the plot of this movie, if you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, this film, which Judge originally planned to title 3001, follows average American Corporal Joe Bowers, who is the subject of a military hibernation program, but things go awry when he and fellow subject Rita are forgotten about and wake up in the year 2505. In this future, greedy corporations, advanced capitalism, anti-intellectualism, and overstimulation have caused a drastic drop in IQ. The water fountains are filled with Gatorade, and Starbucks sells mostly handjobs. Joe quickly finds out that he's the smartest man on Earth and is tasked with saving the human race, but when he trips up for even a second, they want to kill him.
Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. Another working title that I did like was the United States of America.
Oh yeah, they do American Express, I think,
Yes.
shows up in the movie at some point.
Yeah. Oddly enough, it's got pretty good reviews. 71% on Rotten Tomatoes is what it sits at right now, a 6.5 on IMDb, and a 3.0 on letterboxd. So like the modern movie viewer has a little more of a critical approach to it. And the groups of critics on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, I still think are like, I don't know, they're into the satire of it, maybe a little more than the younger movie critic like we are. Yeah, so we're critics.
Graydon will get into why this movie didn't get a huge release, and that has more to do with Fox and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It also wasn't screened for critics
Right.
prior to coming out.
Yeah.
And I think that Judge thought that generally how it was very anti-corporation,
Yeah.
that the critics would not buy into the concept of the movie or would kind of like spoil it to not be popular in general.
Yeah. And it didn't get this wide release in general from Fox because basically Mike Judge like owed Fox another screenplay and he brought him like 4 and they were like, oh, this is like a big broad comedy and it's future. And anything like in that 2000, 2010 time period, future stuff was just like easy to sell. What they didn't expect was for him to write Starbucks giving out hand jobs, Carl's Jr. taking your kids if you can't feed them. Like the list of like corporate mentions that are just like paint them in a really terrible way basically held this movie back from getting like the natural 600 theater release or whatever for a full nationwide release. I think it was like less than 125 theaters it got out into. And that was like fear of, you know, Fox getting backlash from big corporations. And Mike Judge at the time, this is like during the Bush era. So it's like, there's sneaky jabs at like kind of the constituency that was the Bush support, like Southern Republicans, as we like what they thought then was bad. You know, this is like where we look at it like, oh, that wasn't even that bad. But at this time, this is like what people were really criticizing. And there's the great shot in this with the Fox News segment that it opens up with like 3 explosions and a bullet comes out of the O.
Yeah.
It's like hypercritical of all those things. And so I think the studio backed off early on in the stages and was like, well, he did Office Space. Let this hit DVD and let's see how this rolls out. Because if we show this in every theater around the world, like all of our backing for maybe our next couple movies is going to get pulled.
Had you seen this movie before?
This is the weird thing with this one. I don't know if I've ever seen it front to back, but this movie lived on Comedy Central when we were young, late night in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, it's like, it was this and Malibu's Most Wanted were just always on Comedy Central. Those were like kind of the quintessential cult comedies that were like somewhat commentary on the social zeitgeist. Like with Malibu's Most Wanted, you had the young white rapper trying to get into the gangster rap scene. And with this, you had like political commentary.
Yeah, I mean, I remember bits and pieces, like scenes. I remember like the mountains of trash and stuff like that. But then I watched it for the first time in full, probably like 8 months ago, because it has this new life on the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a reason that this was the most requested. It goes viral on TikTok every once in a while, being like, "Oh my gosh, they predicted the future in 2006," and I'm like, "Well, okay, that's hold your horses a little bit. It's not that crazy." But I will say it has some poignant points to make. Yeah. We'll get into that in our categories, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, I get why this movie has lived the second life that it has.
For sure.
Because, like you said, this was commentary on almost like the Bush administration.
Right.
And it accidentally kind of predicts some things about the Trump administration.
Yeah, and I think even more so, like the first Trump administration was more like on the nose of like, holy shit, this guy was like, he's literally in the WWE Hall of Fame. You know, Terry Crews as Honcho Mountain Dew Comanzo or whatever. Camacho is like a professional wrestler. Like in 2006, I feel like there was a lot of people being like, no, this is happening. It's literally happening. And then now, obviously, I think we've far exceeded or like eclipsed even like the stupidity similarities of this, you know, and now it's like much more, it seems much more evil.
Right.
RFK would hate this world.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Most of my favorite lines in this movie are spoken by robots or on billboards.
Yes.
I love the way that they paint corporate America.
Yeah.
I love Carl's Jr., fuck you, I'm eating.
Yes.
I love the greeter in Costco just going, welcome to Costco, I love you.
Yeah.
Welcome to Costco, I love you. And then also, if you don't smoke Tarleton's, fuck you.
It's just a big, like, burly guy.
Yeah, there's a big, like, emphasis on buff guys.
Yes.
While no one else seems to be really buff in the world except for the president and people in commercials and, like, the Fox News anchor.
Yeah.
Everybody else is, like, a lazy slob and can't even, like, think straight.
Right.
But then I'd love that they still are fetishizing the idea of, like, a big buff guy and, like, a hot girl.
Yep. Muscularity is huge. Having sex is huge.
Yeah, boobs.
Speaking of robot lines, I love when he first goes to the hospital and the lady at the desk, first off, can only like diagnose him with pictures, which
there's little like graphics buttons.
And he has like a conversation, not with her, but like she chooses the button, go to diagnostics. And before he can even say thank you, like the robot responds really quick and is like, thank you. And Luke Wilson does like a double take. He's like, what the? Like it's programmed like a little too quick, which is just really funny. We get Justin Long in this movie as a doctor. Also, before we go any further in line, this movie is littered with F slurs and R slurs, like to a degree that are just like, I don't even know if that was cool in 2006. Like it's insane and it's satire. It's supposed to be the prediction of the future. And it was like, all right, well, here's the worst of us. Here's what we'd say a bunch, maybe.
Not even the worst of it. It's the dumbest of us.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, we've covered this in this series many times, but like, it's better for a dumb character to be using a slur than an ideologue to be using a slur.
Yeah.
Somebody who has actual hatred. And I don't know, you don't get much of a sense of where the morals are in this future world. It's just that everybody is so goddamn dumb. And if you sound smart, they think you sound gay.
Yes.
And there's kind of like, it's a weird thing. Like you do get desensitized to it. There are times that make me laugh when they say it. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
But it's not the same use we're used to where they're actually talking about gay people. It doesn't seem like that.
Yeah. I feel like most of those laughs are like just out of pure shock. Like if you're trying to make a movie now of the dumbest people ever, that's like the last thing you would, you know what I mean? If you and me set out to write a movie about, all right, let's go 40 years into the future, and it's like the biggest idiots ever. We're not going to be like, oh yeah, they say the F slur left and right. It's
right,
like,
but I think this movie was made before we had a cultural reckoning about slurs and stuff. I will say the one thing I completely object to, which I don't know if it gets pointed out. I haven't really read a lot about what people think of this movie, but there's a use of the N-word before they go to the future.
Right, yeah. Well, it's like, that's just like so bizarre.
It's like while they're in the hibernation chambers about to get ready, and the dude walks in and just says like,
Yeah.
"You ready, N-words?"
Yeah.
Like it's like
the general or whoever or the sergeant who later gets. So the reason they wake up 500 years later is because they're originally assigned for a mission to hibernate for 1 year, and during that presentation, the sergeant or whatever, or lieutenant or corporal, is like showing how much he liked bargaining with the pimp who is Rita's pimp.
yeah.
And he's like going, upgrade. Yeah. He's going through the slides and he's like partying with him. And then they send him into hibernation and he immediately gets arrested for a prostitution ring.
Right.
And so the building gets knocked down. And then they wake up 500 years later in the trash avalanche, the great trash avalanche of 2505.
But yeah, I mean, just that use there, I'm like, I mean, obviously you're not supposed to think he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He runs a prostitution ring, all this shit. But it's like still crazy.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the movie was like, they made it like, okay, let's go to the future where all these things are said, but they weren't so good in 2005 either.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
So
a line I love that gets repeated all the time because it's the name of the fucking president, though, is Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho.
yeah, Mountain Dew is like his confirmation name, I guess.
Seemingly.
It's not his middle name, but he got it at confirmation.
So many people have corporate names in this. There's that back and forth between newscasters at one point where someone's name's Velveeta.
Yep.
Others people's names are, like Verizon. Like, it's just ridiculous. But Terry Cruz's name being that is just ridiculous.
I have a great line from him really quick.
Please.
I love this exchange that he does. He's on stage and he says, "Shit, I know shit's bad right now with all that starving bullshit and the dust storms, and we're running out of French fries and burrito coverings, but I got a solution." And then somebody from the crowd yells, "That's what you said last time, dipshit." And then the other guy next to him says, "Yeah, I got a solution. You're a dick. South Carolina, what up?"
Yes, I have that down as like one of my favorite lines. South Carolina, what up?
Yeah, he's just repping South Carolina.
My favorite line inside of that bit of dialogue, though, is that burrito coverings.
They forgot what tortillas are.
Burrito coverings?
Yeah.
And then to like silence the uprising, he pulls out a giant machine gun and just fucking fires it in the air.
Yeah.
In scenes, I'll get into that whole scene too. The way the White House or like that Congress is shown with like a fucking jumbotron.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous. I love the extra big ass fries from the Carl's Jr. machine. The Carl's Jr. machine, the things it says is crazy. It's like, you have $0. You can't feed your child. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And then it's like they're spritzing people with like some sort of solution that makes them stupid.
Yeah, it's just like a some sort of like numbing agent or something. It like just makes it like calms them down, like laughing gas or something.
Which I in the moment was like, oh, everyone would probably be big drug addicts in this world. Which like people are smoking giant cigarettes.
Yeah,
which look like doobies. That's funny that like cigarettes got bigger because that's how much we love smoking. I like thought Justin Long's character was smoking a doobie at first, but then I noticed in another scene, like in the White House when they're whatever, the ministers of interior or whatever are all there around. It's just a cigarette that's like this, like the size of a full cigar. That's a good little detail. Dax Shepard has a ton of lines in this.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's pretty good at playing a dumbass. He like, it actually seems like he forgets shit all the time. But I like Joe is trying to convince, what's it, Frito?
Yeah, Frito is his name.
Frito and Rita, when he's like, get Frito, Rita. Those two names, the way they blend together is funny too. But Joe is trying to convince Frito that like if he takes him to the time machine, he'll give him more money. And there's the back and forth of like, I like money. Yeah. I like that. Oh, I like many.
I like having sex with chicks.
Yeah.
And then he like acts it out. He's like, when you're like, and then my favorite building off of that later is like they like bribe the cameraman to leave the event where like Luke Wilson has to fight for his life against these like huge trucks, and they ask him, they're like, will you go like film this crop or whatever? And he's like, I like money. And then they're going to the car together, and he goes, I can't believe you like money too. We should hang out. Yeah. Frito says that to the cameraman. I'm like, that's awesome. They're bonding over just like, I like money.
And then when they get to the strip club, he's like, you like lattes too? You're tripping me out.
Yeah.
He's like, this is actually tripping me out how much we have in common.
We're very alike.
I also love when Rita gets reunited with Joe. Like Joe gets out of prison, gets called into the White House because they find out he's the smartest guy in the world, becomes the Minister of Interior. He's like, all right, let's go check out this crop situation. I need Rita to get here. And everybody's like, he needs to have sex with Rita or whatever. And she gets there and he's like, we need a moment away. And they're like, oh, they're going to fuck. And the first thing, it's just them walking away. And you just hear Rita say, I thought you were in jail. How'd you become the Secretary of Interior? Which is just like such a funny line. Like the last she knew of him was in jail. And then he just in the Secretary of Interior.
Yeah, I love that they drive him to the White House. It's so weird where everything takes place in all of this.
Yeah.
Like he's in the police car and they're like, we're taking you to the White House because I guess you're smart.
Yeah, it's just bizarre. The amount of lines in this that are just kind of like you almost roll your eyes at, but then I think it's a good point that all the tech or like the things that like the characters or people of this futuristic world interact with tend to be like the funniest lines because they're just like responding to these strange automations and like ads and stuff.
Right.
But like the lines I feel like that were really written to be like the laugh out loud lines are just like shit humor. I do love that the #1 movie in the country is Ass.
Yeah, and then that's all it was. Like you have the narrator too.
The narrator's great.
So you basically have like in this movie, you have Joe and you have Rita
Yeah.
in this world who have some level of intelligence.
Yep.
And then you have a narrator. Everything else is supposed to be really stupid.
Yeah.
Terry Crews seems to be very smart not very smart. Smart compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And that almost tripped me up the first time I watched it. I was like, isn't he supposed to be stupid too? He like speaks very clearly. It doesn't come off like he fits in that world that much. But then like the narrator, says like the movie is ass and that is all it was. It was just an hour and 45 minutes of an ass farting every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then it was like it won the Oscars that year, including Best Screenplay.
Yeah.
Which is just obviously like it's play on the idea that like all it is farts. It's not, there's no words.
Yeah.
And it's just a guy ass.
I also feel like Terry is like, he's just like the true hedonist. Like it doesn't matter if he's smart or not. Like he doesn't have to figure anything out because he's figured out like the surefire route of manipulation of this world. He's like just drinking beers. He doesn't care who lives or dies.
He's with 4 women.
Yeah.
He shoots a gun in the air if anybody yells at him.
Yeah. He's just like a pure sicko.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite scenes come really early on. Like I do love the two opposing couples kind of on the intelligence spectrum in like the current day, that being 2005 or 6. So it's like smart, uppity, the yuppie couple as they're listed in the cast. Timing's not right, not in this economy. We can't have children. And then the dumb couple that just like keeps having kids. And then you pointed out it's like almost Adam McKay like the way they show the graphics or the family trees. And with the yuppies, it's just 2. And then it cuts to the dumb. And then it starts to like intersect in all like the worst ways. People are living next to their sister whose cousin they have a kid with. And this is like the idea of how we get to 2505.
Yeah, it's basically that dumb people are reproducing at a higher rate than smart people.
Yeah.
Smart people have ambition and they have careers and all these things and they don't have time to have kids. And then dumb people just keep doing it.
Yeah, that's like the whole philosophy behind the movie, essentially, that kills intellectualism.
Right.
The other nice little time lapse I like in the beginning is the building of a Fuddruckers. And it's almost, shout out Scrunch Fuckers, by the way.
Yeah, and Scrunch Fuckers and Lunch Suckers.
Lunch Suckers.
And they get suck punchers.
Obviously.
Right.
It makes sense. They're nailing it into the ground, and it's almost Mike Judge being like, this is a fucking stupid name for a restaurant.
Right.
This is like our starting point.
Yeah.
We have these. We all know what Fuddruckers
We have
is.
Fuddruckers. There aren't a ton of them.
No,
but there
but
are
that's
some.
a stupid name, and we have them.
Uh-huh.
And then Joe wakes up in the future, and Fuddruckers has turned into butt fuckers.
Yes.
And he's in such shock when he looks through the window, and there's a children's birthday party going on inside of butt fuckers.
Yeah.
That, to me, is really funny. I also like how it shows like the design of Fuddruckers changing.
Yeah.
As the time goes on and it becomes like a little more futuristic, and then the name just changes to, they're like, well, we were close enough.
That is something that you and I would come up with and think is very funny.
Oh, yeah.
Is we will show the passage of 500 years through the lens of Fuddruckers.
Yes, exactly.
Like that branding that's how you know what is happening in culture is you follow Fuddruckers all the way there.
Yeah, I love the idea that it would last 100 years, let alone 500 years. And they're like, the only thing that changed was the name.
Yeah, I do love that. There are a lot of like visual things that I love in this. Like we talked about, I love all of the super corporate business stuff and the really like flashy advertisements in the future that are like the dumbest things you've ever seen. All of those do make me laugh. I also love that the Costco in the future is like the biggest building you've ever seen.
And that Frito went to law school there. Said, I know this place pretty well. I went to law school here.
Yeah. And then I also love they do mimic landscapes with trash.
Yeah.
So like mountains, hills, seas, like all these things are kind of like replicated with trash. And none of it looks that great. It was 2006, but.
And they pulled a lot of their budget for it. That was like one thing Mike Judge gripes about.
Yeah.
Is they just like backed off on like $1 million for them. And so it just became like, all right, we'll draw it and then we'll walk in front of it.
There's like paintings and green screens and shit. And like you can tell that it's very, it definitely cuts corners on that stuff. But at the same time, I like the idea that they were like, let's make the world look like it looks, but it's all trash instead of like natural materials.
The landscape we're used to, but covered in refuse.
I like that.
I like that too. And that's not gay that I said it.
No, you sound really smart though.
Thank you.
I was going to say that. You sound super smart.
That's the other thing, man. What's the difference between anti-intellectualism and pseudo-intellectualism, you know?
There's a huge difference.
Yeah, I know. And I think Mike thought we were going a little more anti, and it seems like today we're more victims of pseudo-intellectualism, you know?
Yeah, but we're only 20 years into his 500-year prediction.
That's true.
Politically, we are way closer.
Yeah, we're on pace.
We're ahead of pace.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like Trump is not that far. Like we got more than halfway in 20 years.
He's been in the ring.
Yeah.
He's fought Stone Cold Steve Austin.
There are like flashy graphics and jumbotrons at Trump rallies. Like it's not that crazy. There are people toting their guns and Hicks yelling that they love the president.
Whoa,
and shit.
easy with Hicks.
You can say Hicks.
It's hillbillies.
Oh, sorry.
One little scene that I do love that I feel like illustrates just the stupidity of the world is when Joe obviously can sneak out of prison by just saying he's got to get out of prison. And then the person's like, whatever, you're not out. And he's like, look behind you. And then he just runs out. But the automated machine guns that just set loose fire once he's out of prison, the one turns to the other and shoots that gun and falls off. So even like part of the automation that's in this futuristic world is like so dumb.
Yeah.
Like it literally, they turn and like shoot themselves.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's like a funny little prop comedy moment there.
Overall, my thoughts on this movie is like when you set out to make a dumb movie, it's going to be dumb.
Yeah.
That's fair. And you kind of have to buy into that and you get to laugh at things along the way. I think where this movie gets caught up is trying to marry a dumb comedy with a dystopian future, which we're used to seeing in serious movies.
Yeah.
So I think there are some poignant points that it's trying to make. It's just, it's always followed by the dumbest thing you've ever heard.
Yeah.
It kind of like plays in its own playground a little too much.
Yeah.
I'm not even trying to over-intellectualize my thoughts on this movie. I laughed at it. I just think like it could have been executed a little better if it let the poignant points feel that way. You didn't have to lean all the way into like some of the comedy just straight up doesn't make me laugh because it's too stupid.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily that it's delivered by stupid characters. It's like the entire idea for the joke was just stupid.
Yeah, it ends up like cyclical. And then it's like, oh, well, the only thing the person in this dumb world would say would be this dumb. So you like cut yourself short of even being able to execute a good joke other than them being like more willingly to interact with Joe, which they're not really. Like most of Joe's plans or lines or defenses fall either on like retorts that are like offensive right away, you know, oh, he sounds gay or he sounds blank. Or it's like the one guy in the White House always just looks at him and is like, huh? Just like grunts or like gasps, and you're like, all right, nowhere to go from here. Like someone's better pick their nose or like whip their dick out because that's all we have left.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see the uncensored version of this. I'm sure there's more boobs and cocks.
Sure.
And the uncensored version sold very well in the UK.
And you want to see this movie so that you can see boobs and penises?
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe it's funnier.
I'm not shaming like wanting that out of something, but this movie, I wasn't like, oh man, I wish there were more boobs and cocks in it. Like,
yeah, I just think it could have been funnier
or
smarter, better to watch. Let's go with that.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's go with better to watch.
Yeah.
I like how his thing gets scanned like
Yeah, they have a
anywhere.
tattoo that gets like scanned and that like proves that you're alive. It's like a barcode for a human being.
And then it like stops Frito's car when he's harboring a criminal or whatever, and they like run out of the car, and the cops show up onto a crime scene to a car that's supposed to have a criminal in it, and they just unload.
Yeah, they just destroy the car with machine guns.
And then a crowd gathers to root them on, and then as the shooting and explosions continue, the crowd starts fighting each other.
Yeah.
And then once the car's completely eviscerated, the cops just unload into the air.
And they all cheer.
They're just like, now they're excited. They're
Yeah.
like, we did it. That's like a pretty good scene to like illuminate the whole idea of the society.
Yeah, to me, that is a funny joke.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a dumb, funny joke, but it's funny because it shows like the lifespan of like if everything went how people really think, like dumb people really think this way, that does make an actual comment on culture.
Yeah.
You know, some of them just don't do that. I will say, I thought about this during the movie. They got cars and shit. Who's building those if nobody's smart?
I feel like they're like shitty, dilapidated cars that are probably being made by robots that were designed in like 2300.
Oh, okay. No, you're spitting.
Because that's what I think about, like even the tech with like when he goes to get the tattoo, the machine he goes into is like filthy.
Right.
I feel like all the smart shit they have is like 200 years old that was designed at the end of like intellectualism or whatever. And now it's just like getting dilapidated and disgusting.
Yeah, it does have kind of a comment on automation as well, because once you get rid of jobs, then people don't learn how to do them, and then generally they get turned off from learning anything.
Yeah.
And so now you do have all of these robots that make things, but those are malfunctioning, those are stupid as well.
Yeah.
But that does kind of speak to the time they've been around. It feels like maybe they worked well at one point, but now there aren't humans there to guide them.
Yeah, there's like nothing that's clean or operating that well. Even the time machine, which we learn later, is just a ride. Frito's like, yeah, but it breaks down all the time and it like doesn't really work and it's risky or whatever.
Yeah, it also does have kind of the comment of like, you do see people with a lot of power in this movie. None of them are in clean places either. And that kind of speaks to the idea that like it takes a village. It's like everybody playing their part is what allows for those things to even happen. Luxury doesn't look the same when people don't do jobs and people aren't like learning things. Like, you know, every rich CEO who may or may not have earned their wealth has people surrounding them who are good at their jobs that do things for them. And they're, you know, paid probably almost nothing to do them, which is another conversation. But at the same time, like, like Terry Crews is the president. And I mean, he's wearing like America vest and huge chain, but he's not like in a clean White House.
No, the desk that they have a meeting at is in a blown out wall and the desk is in between it. I didn't understand that either, but it's like funny.
Yeah.
Just like in a cave in the wall. And then there's an above ground pool in the front. I have down the White House is lit.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do, that's luxury. That's like what's left of luxury is like lawn chairs, an above ground pool, and like what comes to be the ending party scene is like, you know, a hillbilly ass backyard bonfire type Swanton, Ohio party.
2000s movies had tons of these, by the way.
They love the outdoor, like, all right, we all just won, let's tear it up. And then it's just like a kind of...
The Vols just won in Tennessee. They're tearing down the field goal posts and we'll bring them to a backyard somewhere and burn a couch.
Yeah, it's like just loitering around outdoors somewhere with a keg, a DJ, and someone can grab the mic and be like, hey, I just want to say, this guy's a fucking man. And it's like,
that's why I'm making him my vice president.
Yeah, Joe also just gives up on going back in that moment. That's a hilarious scene.
Yeah, he decides to stay with Rita.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll say, I love that he's so innocent he doesn't find out what Rita does.
No.
He lets it be paintings the whole time, and she just lets that be. And I do love that. There's something sweet about that. It's weird. Because I think, obviously, 2006, there was a different view of sex work.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into, like, the politics of sex work. Like, she has a pimp and all this stuff. Whatever. But I'm saying, like, the idea that she finds some sweetness in herself because she really likes Joe.
Yeah.
And Joe just always thinks of her as just a nice, creative woman.
Yeah.
And then they end up making babies together.
Yeah, even when he thinks his life is at the end, when he gets tied to the rock, his last words, go without me. And Rita, don't ever quit painting. She's like, Yep.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it a little earlier though, but the Fox News scene is so fire.
Oh, it's great. He's a big ass buff dude, shirt off, meathead steroid guy, and then you got a hot girl with her boobs showing a little bit. You know,
I love when the female anchor is like, "All right, let's go to Velveeta outside the court steps," and the whatever visualizer of her, like the screen of her, comes up over her left shoulder, and she goes, "All right, we'll go to Velveeta outside the court," and she goes over her right shoulder, and then when it comes back, she's like, "Wow, that was great." And the whole time it's just over here. It's like she doesn't understand the mirroring of a camera.
Yep.
I'm like, there are a lot of those little details in this where I'm like, they really went to a strong emphasis of just like, these people are dumb. They don't, even when he's giving Frito the directions of trying to run away from the cops, he's like, right. And the car's just like drifting forward. He like, he's unsure of which way is right.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I think one of the best visual things that really works for me is when it does go to the Washington Monument and it's crooked and then the fucking pond is just full of jet skis.
Yeah.
That's like one that like, that was like the largest scale scene where I was like, oh, this is like an overpopulated nation of true debauchery. Because a lot of the other ones, like when he's in the hospital and he looks out and he sees like the broken overpass and the car like falls off, that is like so drawn cartoon like, where I'm like, whatever, I don't like buy it or believe it. But the crooked monument with the jet skis in the pond, I was like, this is fire.
Yeah.
I loved that scene. My least favorite scene is gotta be the whole rehabilitation, like the climax of the movie.
Oh, with the big trucks and
I
shit.
hate the monster
same.
trucks. It just looks so bad. Shout out Andrew Wilson. That's the third Wilson brother there, who's Beef Stew.
Something like that. He's got a flamethrower he's trying to kill him with.
Beef Supreme.
Beef Supreme, yeah.
Beef Supreme, who
Yeah.
crawls out of the rocks.
Uh-huh.
His truck's too big. They can't even get it in the stadium. That was just like, all right, we have $600,000 left. Like, what's the most effects we can use to like make this feel? I don't know.
I
Like,
think he was trying to do like a Mad Max thing, you know.
Yeah, but I feel like they got that across when they're riding with Camacho, like while he's on the bike shooting the guns.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I don't like that scene either. I
Yeah.
just think it's annoying. But like, I mean, they
I
just needed
guess.
like a town square thing where everybody's watching him
Yeah.
fight for his life, and then they had to like find a way to then show the crops growing so
Right.
they know that he wasn't lying and whatever.
And the crops didn't grow because of Brondo, which is the Gatorade of this universe, had convinced people 100 years prior. First off, they bought the FDA and
Yeah.
like the EPA, and then convinced everyone that water was bad because that was like the main competitor to Brondo.
Yeah, they all associate water with the toilet in this movie.
Yeah, that's
They're like
it.
water, like from the toilet. They like don't know that water was supposed to be drank.
Brondo is what plants crave.
Yeah.
Electrolytes. That scene's pretty good. The way they keep going back. He's like, what do you mean? Obviously they don't crave it if they're dead. Well, that's what they crave. And he's like, why would they crave it? And they're like, because it has electrolytes.
Yeah.
He's like, what's electrolytes? It's what Brondo has, and it's what plants crave. It's like
It's a big cycle.
a good
And
back
the
and forth.
CEO of Brondo is also the guy from Sideways.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Yeah,
Shout out.
yeah.
Big shout out Thomas Hayden Church. Sideways, much better movie.
Yeah, go
that.
watch Sideways with Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church.
And then the judge is the dude from Dodgeball, Marty. I think it's Marty, the guy who's got the Asian wife who hates him.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I put Terry Crews down as my best performance. Luke Wilson's doing a Luke Wilson thing. He's pretty good at being the average Joe of the universe, and that's what he has to do. Like we said, Dax Shepard's pretty strong. But like Terry Crews's energy got me out of a couple like tough scenes. I don't know. I've never seen a movie where he's like one of the main characters either in it. And I was kind of electrified by him in a couple instances.
Mine's Maya Rudolph easily.
Yeah.
I think she is so funny in this movie and like consistently funny.
Yeah.
And I think her interaction, she's a very expressive performer, and that works so well in that world because she looks down on this world and
Yeah.
isn't even intellectualizing it. She is pretty like quickly just accepted that this is what's going on.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you know, that interaction with that guy who she's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to sleep with you someday. I
Yeah.
just, you know, need, you're paying by the hour. Remember, you're on the clock.
Still on the clock.
And just like keeps giving her money. And she like it finds a way to manipulate that world, but
Yeah.
also finds some sweetness and is just so funny. Terry Crews to me is one of the weaker performances. I think he does the Terry Crews thing and I'm definitely entertained by
Yeah.
it. but I don't think it fits the world. Like, I would have written that character much different than the way he plays it.
That's fair. He is just playing Terry Crews, but like when he starts doing like the preacher thing about like what Joe's gonna fix and he's gonna solve hunger and the economy.
Yeah.
I loved it. He got me out of some tough scenes for sure. His very funny performance for me, to say the least.
I love when he sings. I will say that.
the
When he
singing
sings, that's
is great.
awesome. Yeah.
I basically just think if you try to make Idiocracy Today, it's going to be like too intentionally cheeky or like really on the nose commentating on like what is actually going on, where in 06 Bush was obviously whatever, did 9/11 and shit. Still such like a civil political atmosphere that like to criticize one side or the other to this degree would be like you had to go 500 years in the future. And I think if you did Idiocracy Today, they'd be like 10 years from now, here's where it'll be. And it'll be like the Third Reich marching up and down Washington, D.C.
I don't think there was a figurehead that was as disruptive as Trump. And that helps this movie sit in a place where its projections are not actually commenting on a specific person or thing. Like, I think if you made that, it'd be like super Trump. That's like what that movie would be. But I don't think that necessarily that's the only option to make a movie like this. I just think right now we are a little too tied up in things.
Yeah.
George Bush was a bad president. George Bush too, but George W. Bush was a bad president. But a lot of like the pomp and circumstance of politics was still there. You could still like, everything felt professional to a certain degree. A lot of people thought he was a dumb guy, for sure. But it's not the same way that it is now. Now there are people showing up in shorts to Congress.
There's proof.
There's like Elon Musk is just like, whatever. I don't even want to talk about it. There's a lot of shit going on that was not going on in 2006 that helps a purer idea of a dystopian future to exist in this movie.
Yeah.
I just said that we have more information and capacity for technology. Like, it's a clearer path from the present to this future, but more with the way movies are made. Like, to me, I think that it's like the CGI and things like that. It allows you to predict even this dirty future in a way that I think would look and feel cooler.
For sure.
And I think the dystopia could be a little less, not that it'd be less stupid in like, cause you want it to stay as dumb as it is. I think that's where this movie is so fun to watch. It's just like, I think the way that it looks and feels could be a little cooler.
Yeah, for sure.
If they were able to do what they do with movies nowadays, you know? I have Tim Robinson as Joe. This is a different movie, by the way, the way that I'm doing it. Connor O'Malley as Frito.
Love that.
I do worry about making him fully dumb because I think when he's a rage character, he works a lot better.
Yep.
But I think he could do it. And it'd be funny. Aga Wodum from SNL as Rita. I think she has a similar thing to Maya Rudolph. She'd be snarky about the future. And then I have Rob McElhenney from Always Sunny as President Camacho. Because he's jacked now. Yeah. And I think he could do he would tap into something different for that. But I would love to see Rob McElhenney in that bag. For some reason, that makes sense to me.
That makes a lot of sense. I just did our main two characters here.
Okay.
I have Ryan Reynolds and Jennifer Aniston.
That is good.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie, but
it's not exactly.
No, yeah, but it's good. It makes sense.
Yours is a different movie. Yeah. I'm remaking the same movie, but I just want Ryan Reynolds and Jennifer Aniston.
It's a miracle that Ryan Reynolds wasn't in this movie to begin with.
Honestly, I
wish
he
did so many movies like this.
I know.
In the 2000s?
Yeah. He should have been a toilet in this. That would have been awesome.
He would definitely be Joe, though. Yeah. He is like the exact... They like wish they could have gotten Ryan Reynolds for this.
I don't know. I feel like Luke Wilson's awesome as it because he doesn't have charisma.
No, he does, though. He has rootsy charisma.
Kind of.
I think.
He like learns his own swag while existing in the dumb world.
He's a good character to be like... the true to himself guy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really all that it is.
Here's what I know. And if that makes me the smartest guy in the world,
He doesn't like hate everybody or anything. No. He's just like, man, how am I gonna navigate this world?
Yeah. And he like tells
I'm not the smartest guy. I mean, I was average Joe back home, but now here, these people need my help.
He like tells Rita before they go into hibernation, he's like, I've always admired that about people that can just go from one thing to another.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I do this and that. And he's like, wow, I can only do my one thing. He's like, that's so cool. You can just do whatever.
I think I'll stick around. These people need me. Like, I don't know. There's something, like, he works as that, but
He does.
Ryan Reynolds is a little bit more like expressive and more like caters to mainstream movies and shit. But like, I don't know. I wanted more Future music, like the rapper.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, I like wanted more of his songs to be in it.
Is he dropping shit in 06?
He was, but he sounded like Andre 3000.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. I was just letting you know what was going on.
So he's playing a flute.
You asked me. No. Not that Andre 3000 music. I'm talking about like when he was an Outcast. Southern rap, Atlanta style. That's what Future was doing. Because remember, Future is almost 50.
He still loves drugs and guns.
And ladies.
I can't prove it. There's one track that stood out to me in this. I think it's when he first gets the job at the White House. They play Hoodoo Man by Junior Wells. There's like that one blues track that comes in. And that's just kind of about like the Hoodoo Man got done. It was just like it was a trickery kind of moment. And I thought that was like a great needle drop in it. But I do agree. I wish there was God, it's like I'm in 2505. I wish there was more Fix the Economy. I wish there was just more like tracks. I feel like there's so much like dead air in this movie time to time where like, I wish like moments were a little more defined by like songs that could have added some sort of depth of explanation to things because you couldn't count on your characters to do that. Yeah,
I mean, I will say I did have the thought. I was like, shouldn't the music be like futuristic? And I was like, oh no, like anti-intellectualism has won. So of course it's like blues and country and like all these things that just remind us of the South. Not to say that music is dumb by any means. I'm saying like they were trying to make it like, oh, rootsy music, party rock essentially is going to be what soundtracks this. It's not going to be this like electronic music that sounds futuristic because that's not what's going on in 2505.
Yeah, I did write that I wish it had more like butt rock-esque stuff where I wanted like, Frito to be like, I'm sad, I'm gonna play my favorite song and click a track and it's like, da, 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 some shitty Creed sounding band or something.
Right.
Not that Creed could ever sound shitty. That came out wrong.
Yeah.
But there are also like, there is a good mix of like, I think there's like 3 different classical pieces in this.
Except in The Office. You said not that Creed could ever sound stupid.
Oh, that nice one, man.
Yeah.
Great. Nice.
I know it was a couple of minutes ago, but I just thought about it.
Good one, man. Great job.
Except in The Office.
Grant, can you put a sticker on his board over there? That was a good joke, buddy.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, give him a red sticker on his board, Grant. Or actually,
I don't have a red one yet.
Yeah, what color do you want, buddy?
Oh, well, you said red, so I guess red.
You're all good to go.
Yes. This is my favorite video.
There is like 3 classical musical pieces in this that I think is kind of funny and definitely intentional. There's like a few sonatas sprinkled throughout this at times where it's like, oh, let's throw some smart classical music to backdrop the scene of people being like,
yeah, juxtaposition.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
I said, I guess. I think it sparks a conversation. I'm not saying it's a good movie.
Right.
I'm saying like everybody should watch this once. Just in kind of like okay, it like starts a conversation. It's dystopian, it's stupid, whatever.
I'm pretty firmly in the no camp.
No, I figured you would be. I don't think I watch movies for the same reason every time. That's all I'm saying.
That's
like,
true.
I'm not watching movies to be like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just like watching something so I can talk about it.
And I do feel like we often get to this point in this category where it's like, oh, it all depends on the context, who the person is and why they were going to watch a movie and like how they pose the question. But I think like broadly, anyone was on the fence of like this and even like any other bad comedies from this era, I'd probably recommend something else.
Yeah, I know that like the other day, my friend Gavin, he was like, I literally have that on my watch list because I saw a TikTok clip from that movie and people were like talking about it a bunch. And I was like, oh, I got to find that movie. So I looked up the actors, saw it was Idiocracy and put it on my watch list. And then I was like, oh, dude, you should watch it. Just instinct.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you should watch it because I want to talk to him about it.
Yeah, I just don't know how. I can't think of many other people outside of like you and like maybe 2 other people that I want to even have that conversation with because I'm so nervous about this turned out to be pretty true.
Right.
I'm like, that's a conversation I don't know. Even with some of my, like plenty of my closest friends, I'm like, I don't even want to be like someone to insinuate, well, look how it worked out.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
But I think we generally are surrounded by people who can parse through information and comprehend things. Like, I'm not saying that that is my overwhelming sentiment.
Right.
I'm saying it's an interesting thought.
No, that's fair.
And that's all, like, I have that while also being like rolling my eyes at other parts of it. But that's why you talk about it. Is like, I don't think I know anybody who's going to be like, dude, it predicted the future. It's literally exactly like that.
I got 3 for you.
Okay, let's hear them.
Donnie, Crunk, Quinn.
They all said that?
Those 3 morons absolutely said this is the future. And Quinn said, honestly, it'd be better if Idiocracy was real. He said that.
That's a guy who has 15 monitors and jacks off like 6 times a day.
Yeah.
So
I caught him pissing in his trash can by his desk.
Well, that's a good, we all like that though.
That's better than what he usually does, I guess.
Yeah, I think that one's funny.
Yeah.
It's almost full.
It is almost full.
Yeah.
And his piss is coming out slow. I think he's got stones.
Yeah.
The day that stone passes will be a good day in this office.
I'm sorry, Quinn, by the way.
We'll hear it. It'll go, dink. And we'll all go, I'm not sorry.
I'm sorry to Quinn. Because I love Quinn. He's my friend. But he
I love him
definitely
too,
would
yeah.
love a future where Starbucks sells hand jobs and everybody's got 15 screens and just gets to drool in front of something. And that's their
poop,
job.
And poop. And lazy boy.
He definitely might like that. I gave it 2.5 stars, which is maybe too high, but I think it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And my review is maybe I'll like it more in 500 years.
You gonna check back in?
Yeah. I mean, the joke is,
Yeah.
I'd be dumb.
Oh yeah, I get it. I gave it a 0.5 star, which might be a little too high. And I said not enough fart jokes. And maybe I'll amend that to not enough tits and dick.
Oh, okay. You can put that in parentheses afterwards or something?
Not enough fart jokes or tits and dick.
Oh,
And make
okay.
tits and dick one word.
Or tits and dick.
Tits and dick.
Okay.
Because tits and dick sounds like a business that would be in this universe.
It does. All right, well, that was another episode of How Did It Age? Those are our thoughts on Idiocracy. Let us know what you thought of it down in the comments. Let us know what movie to do next over on Patreon. By the way, we tell you a week ahead of time what we're watching on Patreon, okay? We tell you so that you can watch it, and then you can watch these, and they make more sense. YouTube members also get that on the main channel, only $5. Best way to support us. You also get new videos every week. So other than that, thank you for watching. See ya.
Bye.
Oh, I like that Toledo Gold Digger shirt that you're wearing.
Thank you. Finally, someone noticed my elite swagger and optimum aura.
The green screen's gonna be difficult though. This is all a green screen background, and so
Fuck about your green screen.
you probably ain't got no torso, cuh.
Probably ain't got no fucking motion when you are outside.
We're back outside and we have motion, by the way. Brandon inspired us.
I don't know about you.
I don't know about me either, but
I'm feeling
you got enough motion for the two of us.
girl.
You go fast. One thing to the next. One thing to the next.
Coming-
Take some time.
Coming quick.
Oh, okay. That's where we're going. Okay. Yeah, you come
My
fast.
motion.
Yep. You come way too fast.
And you can't come for the both of us, so I do the coming for the both of us.
Yeah, for sure. Premature ejaculation.
That's my MO.
What does MO stand for? Modus
Modus
operandi.
operandi.
I just got there.